Spring 1453, the great city of Constantinople, once the capital of the world and the heart of the Byzantine Empire, had become an isolated island amidst a surging Ottoman sea. Only a shadow remains of the empire's former glory. A mere handful of men are fated to defend this colossal city. 7,000 warriors against an advancing armada of 100,000. A young and ruthless leader is advancing upon the old world. Sultan Mehmed II is only 21 years old, yet a single goal burns in his eyes: to wipe Christian Rome off the face of the earth. Mehmed knows that all previous sieges failed because of the impregnable Theodosian walls, but he possesses a secret weapon that will change the history of warfare forever. The Hungarian master Urban casts a monstrous cannon, the Basilica, for the Sultan. This behemoth is capable of hurling half-ton stone cannonballs for miles. Meanwhile, in Constantinople itself, Emperor Constantine XI Palaiologos is desperately seeking allies, but Europe is divided, and there is nowhere to turn for help. Only a handful of mercenaries answer the call. The legendary Genoese captain Giovanni Giustiniani Longo arrives with professional soldiers from his own family. Giustiniani is a master of fortress defense. His arrival instills a final, faint hope of salvation in the hearts of the exhausted townspeople. April 5th, 1453, the earth trembles beneath the hooves of thousands of horses. The Ottoman army completely blockades the city from the land, stretching all the way to the horizon. From the walls, the besieged gaze in horror at this endless city of tents. At night, the lights of the campfires appear to the Byzantines like stars that have fallen to earth. Sultan Mehmed issues an ultimatum: surrender the city in exchange for lives and property. Constantine Palaiologos refuses. Surrendering the city is not within my power, the emperor declares. The die is cast. There is no turning back. At dawn, on April 6th, the silence is shattered by a roar, the likes of which humanity has never heard before. The Basilica fires its first shot. The earth trembles, and the air fills with choking gunpowder smoke. An old era is crushed to dust. A massive stone cannonball slams at breakneck speed into the ancient Theodosian walls, fortifications that had been deemed utterly impregnable for centuries. Stone fragments and dust obscure the sky. The Christian world stands frozen in horror. Walls that withstood dozens of sieges are beginning to give way to a new, destructive force. But Giustiniani Longo acts with lightning speed. Under relentless bombardment, he compels the townspeople to erect wooden barricades across the breaches. Every night, the Ottomans destroy the walls, and every morning they see that the defenders have rebuilt them. Mehmed II is consumed by rage. A grueling battle for survival begins. The Sultan realizes that the city cannot be taken by cannons alone. He orders preparations for the first full-scale assault. The battle that changed the course of history has begun. Mehmed realizes that as long as the Golden Horn remains blocked by the Byzantines' massive iron chain, the city can be supplied by sea, and its northern walls remain completely secure. But Byzantium's hope is rapidly fading. Food supplies are running low, and the defenders on the walls are sleeping only a few hours a day, exhausted by endless false alarms. On April 20th, 4 massive Genoese ships, laden with grain and weapons, appear on the horizon. This is the long-awaited aid from the Pope. The Sultan orders their destruction at any cost. A vast Ottoman fleet surrounds the newcomers. A fierce naval battle erupts, unfolding before the eyes of thousands of people frozen on the city walls and hillsides. The towering Genoese ships transform into impregnable floating fortresses. From their lofty vantage points, they rain down a hail of arrows, stones, and the infamous Greek fire upon the Turks. Furious, Mehmed II watches this humiliation from the shore. Mounted on his horse, he charges straight into the surf, shouting curses at his admirals, yet he is powerless to intervene. The Genoese fight their way through the blockade, and amidst the jubilant cheers of the Byzantines, slip behind the life-saving iron chain. The Christian world celebrates a small but significant victory. But the joy was short-lived. The enraged Sultan realizes that standard military tactics are ineffective here. He then conceives a plan that contemporaries would deem madness. If we cannot break through the chain, we will bypass it by land. Mehmed orders the construction of a track several kilometers long to skirt the Genoese quarters. A secret operation unfolds under the cover of darkness. Wooden runners are heavily greased with animal fat and tallow to reduce friction. Thousands of soldiers and oxen strain against the ropes. Massive Ottoman warships begin to slowly ascend the slope, moving directly across the land through hills and forests. To mask the noise of this colossal transport operation, Turkish artillery keeps up a furious, ceaseless bombardment of the city walls from the other side throughout the night. On the decks of ships gliding across the grass, sails unfurl, military bands play, and drums beat. This incredible spectacle was intended to break the enemy's will. The dawn of April 22nd greeted the defenders of Constantinople with a bone-chilling shock. Gazing at the Golden Horn, they froze in horror. Right in their rear, in the landlocked bay, where not a single enemy soul had been present the day before, more than 70 Turkish warships now rode at anchor. Mehmed's plan had worked perfectly. The defensive chain had been rendered useless. Now, Constantine Palaiologos urgently needed to pull troops from the main front to defend the new lines. The Byzantine forces, already meager, are now stretched to the breaking point. There is barely a single man for every meter of the wall. The trap has snapped shut. The city is caught in a vice, hemmed in from both land and sea. Yet Mehmed is unaware that a new, unseen threat is brewing underground, poised to tear the war apart from within. May 1453, Ottoman ground assaults repeatedly shatter against the iron resolve of the defenders. Realizing the walls cannot be taken by a frontal attack, Sultan Mehmed shifts his strategy. He summons Serbian masterminers from Novo Brdo. Their task is to dig deep tunnels beneath the Theodosian walls to undermine their foundations from within. The work is proceeding in absolute secrecy. The miners advance in pitch darkness, excavating the earth centimeter by centimeter, while unsuspecting Byzantines hold the line directly above their heads. The plan is perfect. Once the tunnels reach the walls, the supports will be set ablaze, the ground will subside, and the great fortifications will collapse of their own accord, opening the way for the Turkish army. But Constantinople has a genius of its own. A legendary Scottish engineer in the Empire's service, John Grant, notices strange vibrations in the ground. Grant places buckets of water and small bells along the walls. Barely perceptible ripples in the water betray the enemy. The invisible underground front has been discovered. Now Grant initiates counter-mining operations. The Byzantines begin digging their own tunnels toward the enemy, guided solely by the sound of pickaxe blows. On May 16th, an event unprecedented in history takes place underground. Two subterranean galleries collide head-on. A ruthless battle erupts within the narrow, stifling tunnels. There is no room to maneuver. Men suffocate from a lack of oxygen as they fight in pitch darkness with knives, pickaxes, and bare hands. The ground runs with blood. Realizing the enemy cannot be dislodged by force, Johann Grant resorts to drastic measures. The defenders pump a liquid incendiary mixture into the Ottoman tunnels and set it ablaze. The underground galleries turn into a blazing inferno. The Ottomans burn to death or suffocate from toxic smoke. The survivors flee back in panic. In other tunnels, Grant uses Greek fire and simply blows up the supports, burying the Serbian craftsmen alive beneath thousands of tons of rocky earth. Day after day, Grant locates and destroys one mine after another. In just 2 weeks, the Byzantines eliminated more than a dozen major Ottoman tunnels. Mehmed's underground plan failed completely. His elite sappers were wiped out, and the walls of Constantinople withstood even this stealthy, deadly threat. Sultan Mehmed realizes that time is working against him. Rumors are circulating in his camp about the imminent arrival of a massive Christian fleet from Europe. A mutiny is brewing. Vizier Halil Pasha openly urges the Sultan to lift the siege and retreat before it is too late, claiming that the city is cursed by God and impossible to capture. But Mehmed II is unyielding. To retreat now would mean losing both his throne and his life. Instead of peace, the Sultan announces preparations for a single, decisive, all-out assault. The city had withstood cannons, ships, and mines. Yet, the darkest night in its history lay ahead, a night when the very heavens would signal to the Byzantines their imminent doom. It is late May, 1453. Tension within the besieged city is reaching a breaking point. The people are physically exhausted, but what is about to happen will completely shatter their morale. On the night of May 22nd, an ominous spectacle unfolds in the sky. The full moon, the principal symbol of Constantinople, suddenly begins to dim and is engulfed by a blood-red shadow. A lunar eclipse plunges the city into shock. Residents recall an ancient prophecy: Constantinople will fall only when the moon gives a sign of its waning. To appease God, Emperor Constantine orders a religious procession with the most revered icon of the Mother of God, the Hodegetria, to be held throughout the city. But in the midst of the procession, the icon suddenly slips from the hands of the worshippers and falls into the mud. It seems incredibly heavy, and it takes the combined effort of dozens of people to lift it back up. At that very moment, a violent squall, accompanied by hail, descends upon the city. Torrents of water literally sweep people off the streets. The religious procession has to be abandoned. Fear paralyzes the mind. The next morning, a strange, unnatural glow is observed above the dome of the great cathedral of St. Sophia. A flame flickers over the cross, then slowly dissolves into the heavens. For the defenders, this was a death sentence. Everyone understood the Holy Spirit had departed the church, and the Lord had finally turned his back on the first Rome, abandoning it to its fate. While the Byzantines pray, a frenzy of activity grips the Turkish camp. Mehmed II personally rides among the ranks, distributing gold and promising his soldiers 3 days of unhindered plunder. The Sultan addresses the army. "Before you lie the riches of the entire world. The city is yours. Its gold, its women, and its glory belong to you alone. We seek only Constantinople itself." On the night of May 28th, the Ottoman camp lights millions of torches. The warriors sing religious hymns, and the thunder of their drums carries for miles around. But at the stroke of midnight, on the Sultan's orders, all the fires are instantly extinguished, and an absolute deathly silence descends. This psychological weapon drives the besieged to the brink of madness. In this ominous silence, Emperor Constantine Palaiologos realizes that the final assault will come tomorrow. He gathers everyone capable of bearing arms in the Hagia Sophia. For the first time in centuries, Orthodox and Catholics pray together beneath these ancient vaults. Faced with imminent death, past religious strife is swept away. Constantine XI addresses the people with a farewell speech. He calls upon them to fight to their last breath for their faith, their homeland, and the memory of their great ancestors. "My brothers," the emperor says, "this day is a day of our greatest glory or our doom. But know this, we shall not surrender without a fight." The entire cathedral erupts in weeping. After the service, the soldiers take their positions along the crumbling walls. Giovanni Giustiniani Longo personally inspects every breach, preparing the barricades for the coming blow. The clock is ticking. The defenders gaze into the darkness of night, knowing that the avalanche will be unleashed with the first rays of the sun. Byzantium's time has run out. The assault of the century is beginning. May 29th, 1453, an hour and a half before dawn, the silence of the night is shattered by the deafening roar of thousands of trumpets and the thunder of drums. Mehmed throws the first wave, the Bashi bazooks, into battle. From top of the wall, liquid Greek fire being poured down onto attackers, bright green and yellow flames, exploding on impact, chaos and destruction, cinematic lighting. But Mehmed shows no mercy to his own men. Behind the advancing troops stand blocking detachments of janissaries, ready to execute anyone who attempts to turn back. The onslaught does not slacken for a moment. The second wave consists of regular Anatolian troops. Heavy artillery enters the fray. The massive basilica cannon fires a decisive shot, blasting a huge breach in the wall near the gate of St. Romanus. Thousands of Turks surge into the breach, but there, they are met by an iron wall of Genoese troops led by Giustiniani Longo. A bloody slaughter erupts in the narrow passage. The sun begins to rise, painting the sky in crimson hues. The besieged are holding out at the very limits of human endurance. They repel a second wave as well. Mehmed realizes this is his last chance. The Sultan commits his personal guard to the fray. Fresh, impeccably trained janissaries. 12,000 elite warriors advance in silence, to the steady beat of drums, to storm the breach. And at this critical moment, fate deals Constantinople its first fatal blow. A fragment from a Turkish projectile pierces Giovanni Giustiniani Longo's armor, inflicting a severe wound to his chest. The bleeding commander is evacuated to a ship. Seeing their legendary leader leave the battlefield, the Genoese mercenaries are seized by panic. The defense of the breach begins to crumble. But the real catastrophe is unfolding along the northern section of the walls. Through a fatal oversight, the defenders left a small, secret postern gate, the Kerkaporta, unlocked. A detachment of janissaries stumbles upon it by chance. breaks through and raises the Ottoman flag atop the tower. A blood-curdling cry echoes through the city. The city has fallen. This news instantly shatters the last of the resistance. The defenders flee. Emperor Constantine Palaiologos realizes that all is lost, yet refuses to flee. He casts off his purple imperial cloak and insignia, choosing to die as a simple soldier. "The city has fallen, yet I am still alive," Constantine exclaims, and throws himself into the thick of the enemy. The last emperor of the Roman Empire perishes in battle as a warrior, and his body is lost among the thousands of other fallen. The Byzantine Empire, which had endured for over 1,000 years, has fallen. Hordes of Turkish soldiers storm the streets of Constantinople. 3 days of looting and chaos, promised by the Sultan, begin. The Golden Horn runs crimson. Thousands of terrified citizens barricade themselves inside the Hagia Sophia, hoping for a miracle. But the cathedral doors are smashed open by axe blows. Christianity's great sanctuary has been seized. It is noon. Sultan Mehmed II, henceforth known as the Conqueror, makes a triumphant entry into the vanquished city through the gate of St. Romanus. He heads toward the Hagia Sophia. Upon entering the cathedral, he orders its conversion into a mosque. The fall of Constantinople marked a definitive turning point. The Middle Ages had come to an end. A new era had begun, and the world would never be the same again. The Ottomans celebrate their triumph, but Mehmed the Conqueror quickly puts a stop to the looting. He does not want a ruined city, but rather a new, magnificent capital for his own empire. He guarantees the safety of the remaining Greeks, proclaims freedom of religion, and appoints a new Orthodox patriarch. Constantinople changes its name. It is now Constantinia, the future Istanbul. News of the city's fall reaches the shores of Italy. Wounded soldiers and refugees, having escaped on Genoese ships, bring the shocking news that instantly paralyzes Europe. Panic grips Rome, Venice, and Paris. The Christian world realizes that the impregnable shield in the East, which had protected it from the Islamic world for over 1,000 years, has been wiped out forever. The Great Silk Road is now fully controlled by the Sultan. Mehmed blocks the old trade arteries, imposing exorbitant tariffs on European merchants. This economic stranglehold compels European powers to seek alternative routes to the east. Spain and Portugal outfit expeditions into the unknown, launching the Age of Discovery. Thousands of Byzantine scholars, philosophers, and artists, fleeing the conquered city, find refuge in Florence and Rome, bringing with them ancient manuscripts of Plato and Aristotle. This massive influx of knowledge revolutionizes European culture. The knowledge of ancient Byzantium provides a powerful impetus for the dawn of the Renaissance. Humanism rises from the ashes of Rome. But while the West flourished, a colossus was rising in the East, the great and ruthless Ottoman Empire, destined to hold all of Europe in fear for 3 centuries. This war saw the clash of not merely 2 armies, but 2 concepts of warfare. The old era of stone fortresses fell before the age of gunpowder and devastating artillery. The siege of Constantinople proved that no wall built by man, no matter how great its defenders, could any longer hold back the course of history. The year 1453 forever divided humanity into before and after. This is the story of how the ambitions of a single man and tragic twists of fate could alter the destiny of the planet.